Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. First of all, let me introduce myself to you. My name is Arum Afdalisani Janati. I'm from Mathematics Education Faculty, Muhammadiyah University of Surakarta. On this occasion, allow me to present you the article that I made. The title of the article that I made is A Minimum Competency Assessment Based Electronic Worksheet to Improve Mathematical Literacy Skills. Please listen to my presentation. There are three main reasons why this research was conducted. First, there is a big changes in the 21st century. In this century, every individual is required to have quality and skills in the field of information, communication, and technology, or ICT. Each individual is required to do work quickly and precisely, with high ability to decide every action, operate technology, collect and process any information obtained, innovate, and have a skilled career in this modern world. Some of these demands require students to be able to develop all their competencies in order to survive and compete with the outside world. The second reason is the fact that the mathematical literacy ability of students in Indonesia is still low. Based on the result of PISA 2002 until 2018, Indonesia's ranking has always been in the 12th lowest rank of the number of countries participating in PISA. In 2018, PISA research showed that Indonesia was ranked 73 out of 79 countries that are members of PISA. So, the government makes programs to improve mathematical literacy skills, which replace the national examination with a minimum competency assessment. The minimum competency assessment is an assessment of the basic competencies needed by all students to be able to develop their own capacity and participate positively in society. Minimum competency assessment aims to produce information that can be used to improve the quality of teaching and learning, so as to improve student learning outcomes. The result of the minimum competency assessment function provide information about the level of student competence that can be used by teachers to develop effective and quality learning strategies according to the level of student achievement. Two basic competencies are measured in the minimum competency assessment, namely reading literacy and mathematical literacy, or numbering. In fact, there is two problems on the implementation of the minimum competency assessment at one Kudus vocational high schools. First, no special preparation in facing the minimum competency assessment. The preparation carried out by the school only provided practice questions from the Ministry of Education and Culture, and the worksheet from two different publishers. Second, teachers have not been able to develop worksheets independently. The worksheets used in preparing the minimum competency assessment are only used for a few students randomly selected by the Ministry of Education and Culture. Several teachers have not been able to develop worksheets or electronic worksheets that contain mathematical literacy questions independently to be used in the learning process as special preparation in facing the minimum competency assessment. Based on these problems, the researcher will develop a minimum competency assessment-based electronic worksheet containing mathematical literacy exercise. Use Live Worksheet website. This platform allows teachers to make an activity sheet that was previously in the form of print to be online and interactive. This platform is equipped with a self-correction feature, which is an automatic assessment of student work results, so the teacher doesn't need to correct manually. The type of research is research and development, or R&D. The research model applied is the ID model. This research was conducted at one Kudus Vocational High School. The subject in this study were 9 students of 10 class who were randomly selected by the mathematics teachers. Data collection techniques used in this study, namely interviews, questionnaires, and assessments. The interview techniques aims to obtain the expected research information from the research persons. Questionnaires are used to determine the validity and practicality of the developed worksheet. Assessment is carried out to determine the progress of student scores before and after using the worksheet. Data analysis that used in this research are Likert scale and pair t-test. Data analysis, the Likert scale. The Likert scale is one of the scales used to measure opinion or perception of a person or group of event. The Likert scale is a Likert scale with 4 scales. There are score 4 criteria very inappropriate, 3 for less visible, 2 for visible, and 1 for very visible. The formula that is used to calculate the percentage of visibility and practicality are in this. The results of the percentage scores obtained will be interpreted in the following table. This. Data analysis priority tests. In order to find out the difference in learning outcomes before and after being given a worksheet using student learning outcomes, a parity test was carried out using SPSS. The prerequisite for conducting the parity test is that the data must be normally distributed and homogeneous. If the data is normally distributed, then the data is analyzed using parametric statistics, namely parity test. But if the data is not normally, the hypothesis is tested using non-parametric statistics, namely Wilcoxon tests. There are 5 stages on ID model. There are analysis, design, development, implementation, and evaluation. The analysis phase carried out are need analysis and curriculum analysis. Need analysis was conducted to find out the problems and difficulties that occurred during the learning activities and teaching materials. At this stage, an interview was conducted with one of the teachers at that school. The results showed that there was no special preparation to face the implementation of the minimum competency assessment. The teacher only made preparation by giving practice questions to students using questions provided by the Ministry of Education and Culture and worksheets that came from 2 different publishers. Another thing that was found, there was no mathematical literacy worksheet made by the teacher as preparation for the minimum competency assessment. This is because the worksheets from publishers used by teachers are considered sufficient to see the overall ability of students. The next stage is curriculum analysis. This analysis is needed to examine the curriculum that is being used in school as well as the competencies and indicators that will be achieved through the product development. Several topics are discussed in minimum competency assessment, namely numbers, geometry and measurement, data and uncertainty, and algebra. One of the applications of geometric concept to geometric shapes related to comparison and measurement is in the trigonometric comparison material. The second stage is design. At this stage, the contents of the worksheet and assessment instrument were compiled. The worksheet that will be developed contain learning materials that will be presented in the form of videos and practice questions. At this stage, the preparation of research instruments for material expert and media expert was also carried out to test product validity. Assessment of instrument validation for material expert is carried out based on material, presentation, language, and contextual aspect. Meanwhile, the media expert's assessment is based on media format, design, and media illustration. Next stage is development. At this stage, the learning materials in PowerPoint were edited to be used as learning videos on YouTube page. And the practice questions were edited into several forms of question used in the minimum competency assessment. Worksheet and research instruments that have been developed are then tested for feasibility using a Likert scale by two mathematics education lecturers as validators of material expert and media expert. The side table shows that the electronic worksheet based on the minimum competency assessment that have been developed are suitable for use in learning. Thus, the product that has been developed can proceed to the next stage. Next stage, implementation. At this stage, the researchers conducted a limited product trial stage. The limited trial aims to determine the improvement of students' mathematical literacy skills using the worksheets that have been developed. Assessment of student learning outcome is carried out in two parts. First part, the assessment of student learning outcome, which is processed automatically using live worksheet. The second, the assessment of student learning outcomes by researchers based on the assessment scores that have been compiled or manual. First step that researchers do is analyze with normality tests. At the table, the assessment using live worksheet is not normally distributed, so the parity test cannot be performed. If data is not normally, the hypothesis is tested using non-parametric statistic, namely Wilcoxon test. To be able to find out whether the provision of minimum competency assessment based electronic worksheet product can improve the mathematical literacy skill of 10th class, it can be seen in the ASIM score on the Wilcoxon test. ASIM scores. The value of ASIM is 0.014. This means that the provision of minimum competency assessment based students' worksheet product can improve the mathematical literacy skills of 10th class. In previous table, the manual assessment is normally distributed. Furthermore, a further test can be carried out, namely the homogeneity test. Obtain a significant value of 0.186 in the homogeneity test. So it can be concluded that the data is homogeneous. Because the normality test and homogeneity test are fulfilled, the parity test can be done. To be able to find out there is no significant difference in learning outcomes before and after being given student worksheet product to 10 class, it can be seen in significant value in the parity test. In the data, the significant value obtained is 0.002. So it can be concluded that the provision of student worksheet product based on minimum competency assessment, there are differences in learning outcomes before and after being given student worksheet product to 10 class. The result of data processing from student learning outcomes and on-leaf worksheet and manual processing but show the same results. This means that the provision of minimum competency assessment based student worksheet product can improve student mathematical literacy skill. The last stage is evaluation. At this stage, the practicality of the product is tested for teacher and students. Aspects that are assessed on practically test sheet for teacher and student are aspects of content or material, presentation, contextual, and media design. The table shows that the electronic worksheet based on minimum competency assessment that have been developed are suitable for use in learning. Thus, in this study, an electronic worksheet based on a minimum competency assessment was produced that can be used to help improve students' mathematical literacy skills. So, the conclusion of this research is a worksheet based on the minimum competency assessment has been produced, which contains mathematical literacy exercise to help prepare teachers and students to face the minimum competency assessment on the topic of trigonometric comparisons. So this is last for me. Thank you for listening my presentation.